Imagine stepping out your front door into a serene Midwestern evening, birds chirping, church bells in the distance, only to discover the friendly neighbor you waved to hours ago is the very monster tying, torturing, and killing strangers in their own homes, and writing letters about it. This is the true story of Dennis Rader, the BTK killer. Dennis Lynn Rader was born March 9, 1945, in Pittsburgh, Kansas. By day, he was the model citizen, Air Force Staff Sergeant, devoted husband and father of two, church council president, and scout leader. He even received an associate's degree in electronics engineering technology. To everyone who knew him, he was as ordinary as the next neighbor. But behind closed doors, Rader was different. At 8, Dennis watched his grandmother behead a chicken in the backyard, blood everywhere, while others fled, and he later confessed the grisly sight stirred a disturbing sexual thrill to him. He admitted to hanging a dog and a cat too in childhood. By adolescence, he was collecting women's underwear, spying on female neighbors as they were changing, devouring bondage magazines, and practicing knots. Psychologists believe these fantasies of restraint and power stoked a need for total control, an urge he'd later satisfy in the most horrific way. He kept notebooks of fantasies so graphic that experts say they map almost precisely onto his later crimes. On January 15, 1974, after 2 weeks of surveillance, Rader slipped into the Otero backyard and severed their telephone lines. When 9-year-old Joey stepped outside to let the dog in, Rader confronted him at gunpoint and forced his way into the house. He corralled Joey and then bound 38-year-old Joseph Sr. and 33-year-old Julie behind their backs, placing plastic bags over their heads to muffle their screams as he watched them slowly suffocate. Upstairs, he repeated the ritual on 10-year-old Joseph Jr. and 11-year-old Josephine. Josephine was still alive when he carried her to the basement, where he fashioned a noose from the same cord and hoisted her until she asphyxiated, leaving a chilling tableau as the signature of his first massacre. Weeks later, Dennis Rader typed a cold, precise letter detailing the stolen watch and private facts only the killer would know, concluded with 3 chilling initials: BTK, bind, torture, kill. With that signature, a new terror was born. Over the next 17 years, BTK claimed 6 more victims, each attack stamping his signature of terror. He escalated from mass murder to calculated single-victim slayings, each meticulously planned to inflict maximum fear. In early April 1974, Rader broke into the Bright home intending to kill 21-year-old Catherine, forcing her to tie herself to a chair, stabbing and strangling her. Catherine's 19-year-old brother Kevin, bound beside her, managed to free himself, saw Rader's face up close, and fled to flag down a passing motorist for help. He was the only direct BTK victim known to survive and actually see him. Police released a composite sketch based on Kevin's description: an average-looking white man of medium build in everyday clothes, like a silver wristwatch and a light-colored jacket. But without unique features, it produced hundreds of leads and didn't break the case. May 1977, 26-year-old Shirley Vian, mother of 3, lies bound face down on her bed as her children scream, then is strangled. December 1977, 25-year-old Nancy Fox is tied and strangled with her own pantyhose. Rader leaves semen deliberately to taunt investigators. Rader continued to write letters to police and media. In 1978, he even sent a parody poem titled "Oh, Death to Nancy." One evening, Paula, his wife, glanced at his hastily scribbled note, its same odd misspellings, and laughed, teasing that he spelled just like BTK. For a heartbeat, Dennis froze, convinced his own wife had uncovered his darkest secret and that he'd have to silence her. But her easy smile and teasing tone dissolved his terror. She'd only been joking, and the terrible impulse to kill her vanished as quickly as it had arisen. In 1979, Rader graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Administration of Justice, or Criminal Justice. Psychologically, he used that formal training to deepen the tricks to stay one step ahead of investigators. With each murder, Wichita's fear deepened. In 1979, local police and the FBI formed the Ghostbusters Task Force, chasing hundreds of leads. At that time, Dennis Rader worked as an ADT home security installer in Wichita. Ironically, at the very same time, his BTK murders were terrorizing the city. As alarm subscriptions surged with each new killing, Rader was often the man on the doorstep, fitting frightened homeowners with the very systems they hoped would protect them, a darkly twisted chapter of his double life. 1985, 53-year-old Maureen Hedge is abducted, tortured, and murdered. Rader stripped and bound her body, then drove it to Christ Lutheran Church, where he was a member, covered the windows, switched on the lights, staged her corpse inside the sanctuary, and took photographs before later dumping the body in a remote ditch. September 1986, 28-year-old Vicki Wegerle is killed in front of her toddler. Her husband is questioned, but later cleared by DNA. January 1991, 62-year-old Dolores Davis is abducted from a Cub Scout camp bound with pantyhose and photographed as trophies. Each crime followed his ritual: binding, torture, and kill, leaving Wichita reeling. Between these slayings, Rader often waited months or years before striking again, a tactic he called his cooling-off periods, which helped him evade capture. During these cooling-off periods, he diverted his attention to photographing himself in women's clothing, masks, and bondage gear. From 1991 to 2004, BTK went silent. Many wondered, had BTK died, had moved away, or was he brewing another nightmare? January 2004, The Eagle ran its Otero anniversary piece, buried on page 12. To Rader's monstrous ego, being sidelined was unforgivable. Here was someone else telling his story. Fueled by fury, BTK picked up his pen again. Letters flooded the Eagle, dripping with contempt. Then a Wichita TV station received a postcard. BTK claimed 2 parcels, one at a roadside, another in a Home Depot lot. The first box was a wicked pun on his own notoriety. A cereal box labeled the BTK Breakfast Special. Inside lay grisly keepsakes, a doll with a noose, bits of jewelry, and a mock article detailing the Otero murders. Rader literally turned his slaughter into a dark serial joke. But it was the second package that would shatter his anonymity. A black Jeep Cherokee seen near the Home Depot was identified via CCTV footage as the vehicle from which the second package was dropped. Inside Box 2 lay the true bait, a note asking if police could communicate via floppy disk, and if safe, to run an ad reading, "Rex, it will be okay." Detectives printed it verbatim, lying in their ad to lure him out. When the floppy arrived, it was evident that BTK tried his best to remove all the info in the floppy disk, which could reveal his identity. But the forensics unearthed a buried Word file, metadata blared "last saved by Dennis," and usage logs pointed to Christ Lutheran Church and the Park City Library, both linked to Rader, as Dennis Rader was the president of this church. Investigators then matched that black Jeep Cherokee in the footage to the model Rader drove. Still, a name and a similar SUV weren't enough for a warrant. Police needed one last thread. The police now go a little bit unconventional. They subpoenaed a PAP smear sample from Rader's daughter, Carrie, a routine student clinic record. The DNA matched semen from multiple BTK crime scenes almost perfectly. With that final proof, the case was airtight, and BTK's reign ended in the arrest of Dennis Rader. On February 25, 2005, officers staked out 62nd Street in Park City. As Rader drove home for lunch in his black Jeep, unmarked cars boxed him in. No gunfire, no chase, just the man they'd hunted for 31 years, cuffed for a simple traffic stop. Over the decades, Rader sent 19 taunting messages to police and media, 10 of them in the final 11 months before his arrest. In one letter, he even pleaded, "How many do I have to kill before I get a name in the paper or some national recognition?" The flood of correspondence in his last year proved pivotal, drawing investigators ever closer. In custody, Rader confessed in clinical detail to 10 murders. He even revealed 2 victims never publicly claimed. When Rader was brought into Sedgwick County Jail, word spread instantly. Inmates pounded on their cell doors and began chanting "BTK, BTK" as he walked past. Handcuffed but unshaken, he looked up at the commotion and gave 2 thumbs up, a small grin on his face, as guards hurried him onward. By June, he pleaded guilty, receiving 10 consecutive life sentences with a minimum of 175 years behind bars. BTK's story is a chilling testament to how evil can masquerade as normalcy, how a monster can live next door, shaking a community to its core. Yet it also shows that persistence, technology, and a killer's own hubris can bring justice, even decades later. But even with justice served, the shadows BTK cast still linger. His case changed how investigators profile killers, how communities perceive safety, and how trust is never truly blind again. The scars remain, not just for the victims' families, but for a nation forced to reckon with the face of evil hiding in plain sight. Thank you for joining Mystery Files TV on this deep dive into Dennis Rader, the BTK killer. If you found this journey into darkness enlightening, tap like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Share your thoughts below. Stay curious, stay vigilant,